Chinese state media, they claimed that if the PLA were to blockade Taiwan, the country's energy reserve would last less than a week. And we know that Taiwan's wartime electricity reserve is not publicly disclosed. And of course, it's because of to safeguard our national security. But how, Christina, I want to ask you, how do you assess China's estimate, and do you think this is you mentioned about this is the hybrid warfare? Right. So do you see this as a part of the psychological warfare?
Well, yes, I think so, because I think that estimate from the Chinese source is based on the natural gas resource, the reserve. By law, yes, the reserve is about 7 days of supply. But the Taiwanese officials also came out and say that Taiwan is working towards the natural gas reserve of no less than 14 days by 2027. And also, when it comes to energy, things like oil is also important. So the oil reserve, I think by law is no less than 30 days. So I want to point out that while energy, Taiwan is heavily reliant on foreign imports. So that does make Taiwan vulnerable. However, Taiwan does have a variety of other kinds of energy resources. And Taiwan does have its native productions. Even though some of those sources like solar, coal, or even nuclear, they're not considered the major sources of energy now. But when it comes to wartime, these may become alternatives. And also, let's talk about how international community respond to it. So we know that G7 top diplomats, they have expressed the deep concern about China's provocative actions. But I also wanted to highlight the developments in the U.S. The U.S. Senate recently held a hearing on Taiwan. During the session, former Assistant Secretary of Defense for Indo-Pacific Security Affairs, Randy Stryver, he noted that Taiwan's defense spending accounts for 2.5% of the GDP. But he also emphasized that Taiwan has invested heavily in national resilience and civil defense initiatives beyond our officials' defense spending. Stryver argued that these efforts deserve greater recognition. So, Professor Wu, how do you view the significance of Taiwan's strengthened civilian mobilization drills in the eyes of the international community, and how can we do better to convey this signal to the international community?
Yeah, I think as China's military threat against Taiwan is increasing in the past few years, our government is doing the good thing to prepare some military balance or defense against those military threats. And I think, our government right now is trying to first of all, they try to lengthen the military services, and then from 4 months to 1 year. Yes. And also, we are thinking of purchasing more weapons from the U.S. to deter China from attacking Taiwan as well. And also, we mobilize those civil groups to prepare for some military casualty or some unexpected events. So I think those are good signals for the international community that we are preparing for defending ourselves.
And Christina, we know there are a lot of countries, they all have their own resilience program and civilian resilience program. But which country do you think is the best model for Taiwan to reference considering our unique geopolitical and political circumstances?
I think we can draw some lessons from Europe. So the Baltic states are good examples because those states, like us, they face constant pressure from Russia, which is a huge country. They also face constant hybrid warfare tactics from Russia. And in response to the hybrid warfare, these Baltic states, they have responded by moving towards the comprehensive defense, the civil defense. And that means, integration between the government, the public sector, and the private sectors, and also the military. And also, Ukraine is another good example. I remember Marta Kapp, she is the analyst from the RAND Corporation. She mentioned Ukraine has a very strong civil society, and the civil society is crucial for resilience, so to fuse the public and the private sector. So these are good examples that Taiwan can draw lessons from.
And Professor Wu, you recently published a piece of research titled "Understanding the Taiwanese people's Will to Defend." Could you share some of your key findings with us, and what measure can be taken to strengthen the public resolve to defend Taiwan?
Yeah, thank you. As we mentioned, that Taiwan is facing military threats from China, and our colleague in either political science or sociology has tracked public willingness to defend Taiwan since 1998. And in the past 2 decades, we constantly notice that Taiwanese public's willingness to defend the country is more than 70, or sometimes it's even 80% of respondents would like to defend Taiwan. Yeah, so I think that that's a very clear signal that we have the resolve to defend ourselves. And I think the figure is a little bit lower for young people below 30 years old, but it's also from 50% to even 70%, depends on years.
And what leads to that the lower figure?
The lower figure, I think according to our latest wave survey, American Poll Track, so we conducted a survey in March this year, and then we asked the question whether the respondent would be willing to defend Taiwan at all cost. And because the word at all cost imports some cost, so I think that in general, the willingness to defend would decrease. But even for that, for respondent aged between 20 years old and 30, there are more than 50%. It's around 53% of respondents under 30 years old would like to defend Taiwan at all cost.
Could you also share a little bit on how does the Russian-Ukraine war have an impact on this survey?
Yeah, I think that's a research topic done by many of my political science colleagues. And yeah, there are 2 findings. The first is that, the Russian-Ukraine war dampened some willingness to fight among Taiwanese population overall. On the other hand, it also increased a certain subgroup of people who are willing to fight for Taiwan. And according to the data collected by INDSR, where Christina works, and they find that there are some people who become more willing to fight for Taiwan after the Russian-Ukraine war.
Talking about INDSR. So, Christina, the recent poll by the Institute for National Defense and Security Research, they found that nearly 70% of the respondents are willing to participate in voluntary civil defense organizations or community defense activities. So, could you share your observation with us on the growing civilian momentum in Taiwan, and considering the potential threats from the Chinese invasion, how should the government better collaborate with these civil society to really build the resilience of Taiwan?
Well, I mentioned 2022. That's the year when war in Ukraine broke out. And I think that has a huge impact on the Taiwanese society.
Yes.
Because for us in Taiwan, it means that war can happen.
Yeah.
And it's real. And also, I think it means that we need to really be prepared. And Ukraine also demonstrate that with a strong will to resist, you can deter the aggression. So I think ever since then, there is a surge within the civil society in Taiwan, a spark interest in civil defense. So we'd like to, talk about, the non-governmental groups like the Kuma Academy or 4 Alliances. These groups, they have training courses, and these courses, from what we know, is very popular among young people. So I think that demonstrates the surge in the youth interest in civil defense. And speaking of the government's role, I mentioned that I think the key is decentralization, because the central government is responsible for planning and also funding. But when it comes to crisis situation, it's really the local governments and the civil society that are best at responding, because they know what's happening on the ground. So the government's central government's role is to plan, but the actual implementation is at the local level.